What is up, everybody? Mark on the mic here, joined by my good friend, Mr. Ryan Muckenhirn. Now, if you've listened to the podcast before, which we hope you have, if you know anything about my good friend Ryan Muckenhirn, he loves Tikkas, and one thing that he loves about Tikkas is the Tikka action. And I will say, it is pretty sweet, Ryan.
It's about as good as it gets.
Let's talk about this thing that's coming on, a pretty modestly priced factory gun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to I got the chamber flag in here. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm pulling the flag, I'm pulling the pen.
Just for those watching who are in question, there's no cartouches in that magazine. We'll just leave the magazine out.
Yeah, we'll just leave it out.
But this is a significant talking point later.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the, what's your origin story with the Tikka action, Ryan?
Well, so Tikkas, for me, always represented a pretty special rifle because they've always been very economically minded for those pursuant of a new rifle. And when I worked in a gun shop way back when I was a lad, we carried Tikkas. And I always thought it was interesting that people would pick them up, look at them, they'd run the action, of which really there is no other factory action that has the same feel, the same smoothness, slickness, nothing like that. They'd be like intrigued and curious about it, but then they look Tikka, and then they'd see Finland on there and be like, never heard of it. They'd put it back down and then go pick something else up.
What year is this?
So that would have been like 2005.
Okay.
Yep. And a lot of people they just didn't hook up right away.
I feel like, about that time, I'd say probably less so nowadays. But I mean, Browning, Winchester, Remington, those would probably be like the core of what you might, pick from.
Yep.
And they're all great rifles.
Still to this day.
Still to this day, yeah.
And if you've listened to me harp before, not that I'm trying to put any bias out there, because I try not to do that, but if I am buying a factory rifle in a factory chambering, there's about a 99% chance it's going to be a Tikka T3X.
Not always, you often go that route.
They're pretty tough to beat, man.
Looking at it, Ryan, hand it over.
Please. Yep.
Give me the gun. Like you said, I mean, they're so smooth, you can't help but want to run it. And another thing that I like about them, like the bolt here, like you're like, oh, is that a little bit loose? What's going on there? And correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but it seems like to me, like when you run this bolt, you can't run it. You can't run it wrong.
Bind it. Try.
Exactly.
Yep, can't be done.
I mean, like I'm putting a ton of pressure on that. I'm still able to, and I just would never do. It's practically automatic. It's not an automatic. It's a bolt action.
Bolt action automatic.
It is fast.
Yeah.
Why is it so smooth?
They just really know how to put guns together. The manufacturing process is phenomenal. Very simple design. One-piece bolt body. The bolt handle snaps in, I guess. We'll call that two-piece in, maybe. The manufacturing process is simplified. Curiously enough, there's only one action length in a Tikka T3 or a T3X.
That's one thing I wanted to bring up.
Yep, there's only one. It is the action. So that houses a smattering of cartridges from 204. One time they did up to a 338 Win Mag. I don't think they have 338 anymore. But 204 to 300 Win Mag.
Yeah, it's almost, when I was looking at it, it's like longer than a short action, shorter than a long action, but just kind of accommodates everything.
Yep.
It's a pretty cool concept.
Oh, it's super cool. And it's not...
I bet for them, from a manufacturing standpoint, boy, that's nice, right?
Very, very easy to control.
I'm going to go to the website here. Keep talking.
So I guess here's what attracted me to the Tikka action. One, its feel. It's a very svelte rifle, right? So when you manipulate the action, it is glass smooth. Mm-hmm. And I've always found that super endearing. Two, the trigger, the out-of-the-box trigger. If you've ever adjusted a factory Tikka trigger, and we don't have this gun apart to show this part, but there's a trigger adjustment screw, and there's a screw that holds the trigger pack into the bottom of the receiver. This acts as an over-travel stop. You can only adjust the screw so far so as not to escape the manufacturer's minimum for poundage. Mm-hmm. And even at its maximum, where it's factory set, which is about 3.5 pounds, it is the proverbial glass rod when it breaks. You can dial that trigger back to about 1.5 pounds, 1.75 pounds. And it's just
They are sweet.
No creep, no take up, rock solid back wall. It is a match grade trigger in a box stock gun.
Do you think you could demonstrate that for the cameras here, Ryan? Would people be able to tell that?
The trigger?
Yeah.
That glass wall?
Yeah.
Sure. Or the glass rod, excuse me. So 2-position safety. We'll get to this in a little bit too. No creep, no take up, just break. And there it goes. Break. It's like it's actuated electronically. It's not, but it's reminiscent of the feel.
Also of note, they come, I guess, cut to accept proprietary ring.
Yes, that is one way to do it. That's the Tikka dovetail, of which there are rings available from Sako Tikka, or you go to Beretta USA to their web store. You can buy their rings there. You can also get rings from Warren here in the U.S. And there's another smattering of other manufacturers that will integrate to that rail. But they didn't want to make that the only means.
I was going to say, you're not limited to that, though.
No, you're not. So a multitude of holes drilled and tapped on the top of the receiver. You can accept a Picatinny rail. You can put Leopold standard bases on here, which I'm also a big fan of. I run a lot of Tally ultralights. You can key those into the top of the receiver. If you want to run a pick rail, you can run any number of rings that are Picatinny or Weaver compatible. No sweat. And so you've got a lot of options for mounting platform securely on top of this. Some Tikkas, depending on what factory configuration you get them in, will come with a Picatinny rail on it. Others will not.
I didn't want to surprise you with a word. Or maybe I did. Maybe this is me with, plotting and scheming. It's like my subconscious wanting to, know a word that you don't know. But actually, I really don't know this word. I'm on the website here, Ryan, because I was reading about this. It says, Tikka has long been working on how to make a bolt-action rifle smoother. We've been talking about that. We use broaching to manufacture a key-shaped interior inside the receiver. That sounds really cool. I don't know what they're talking about.
So a broach is a tool that is pushed or drawn to remove material. So it goes in, cuts, pulls out as it's removed or pushed through.
Okay.
So think of it like a very long, generally speaking, very long cutting tool.
Okay.
Yep. And it does so with minimal tooling mark, minimal disruption, minimal finish work at the end. It's sometimes not the fastest process, depending on how you do it, but often results in an outstanding product. We had a broach at my previous employ. We used it for broaching mag wells.
Oh, okay.
Ours was huge. It was a very large broach.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It says here, additionally, the surfaces of the Tikka receiver are tooled for a perfect finish, ensuring maximum user comfort.
Yep. Very clean.
I would agree.
Very clean bolt. So this was supposed to be about the action more so than it was a rifle. Now, can I get into that? I'm very excited.
Into the action or the rifle?
The action.
Well, so they make some pretty bold claims on their website here.
Sure.
But I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Spit 'em at
they're
me.
not. I don't think they're unfactual. It just says, best in class bolt movement.
I agree.
I probably agree. Minimal audio signature. Not something that I've, I guess, thought of as a big consideration.
Are they highlighting the stock in that respect?
Tikka bolt action moves silently without giving away your presence.
Oh. I've never had that problem in the field.
If I'm running my bolt, it's on.
Yeah.
The gig is up.
You're right.
Something's happened.
Yes. Either we forgot or which I bet we and I both have done that. I just said we and I. We and I.
Oh,
yeah.
Or we. You could shorten it up there. Rapid successive loading and firing, which I would.
They're
you can run those bolts pretty quick. So
fast guns.
Okay. Have we missed anything on the action itself? I like the way you pull the bolt.
Yeah,
that's easy.
So we've got a side bolt release. You see these on a lot of kind of newer custom rifles, and this isn't anything new. Mm-hmm. This is probably if we look at guns of yore, turn of the century, they had a side bolt release, not unlike this, and just a super simple button here on the bolt stop, and pop it out of the way, and bolt comes out into your hand. Like I was talking about earlier, very robust bolt. Very clean, no nonsense, a gratuitous extractor.
I was going to say anything unique about the extractor?
No, not really. Pretty in standard fashion for Tikka and Sako,
Okay.
the way that they configure their extractors. Plunger type ejector in the bolt itself. Very
I'd
strong.
say like petite bolt, but like robust bolt knob.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
I don't know if I was going to describe it, I guess.
Sure. It's svelte.
Svelte, yes.
Yeah,
you mentioned the safety. What's going on there?
So if there's an annoyance that I have with the Tikka, it is this safety.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Well, so this I'm going to borrow from my hunting partner because he pointed this out to me as something I shouldn't like, and I guess either I don't like it or it's stuck in my head for a long time. With the safety on, this gun is locked out. So let's say we're loaded. We get to a fence crossing, or we get back to the rig or back to camp, and we want to safe this gun. The gun is locked out. I can remove the magazine very easily. Okay, magazine's out. But I still have a round in the chamber. I now have to disengage the safety. Remember my fundamentals of firearm safety.
Sure.
Open the bolt and eject the cartridge.
Gotcha.
And I agree with this. I think this could be a meaningful change, maybe if there's some way to do it economically without disrupting the mechanical prowess that this firearm in action represent. A 3-position safety of some kind, or a provision to disengage the bolt while the safety mechanism is on, would be pretty slick. Mm-hmm. There's an aftermarket bolt shroud available that is a 3-position safety for the Tikka T3 and T3X.
Interesting.
Yes. So it nullifies this as the primary safety mechanism, and then we have like a wing type on the back here, very European, and then that has a 3-position in it. So we have a bolt manipulation, but safety engaged position in the middle. Full lockout on one side, and then go to fire on the other. But this is my only bugaboo with this system is I'm locked out until I disengage the safety, and then I can open the action. That has not presented a problem for me.
Right.
It's just always something I'm very cognizant of, because like when I have to push that forward, like usually it's because I'm going to fire the weapon. So then it's like, okay, well, practice cognizance and safety. Make sure it's pointing in the safe direction. Open it up. Small annoyance.
Yeah. So I would say now I'm very used to a system like that.
Sure.
My old A-bolt operates the same way.
Yep.
And so, which we've talked about ad nauseum, so I apologize. But similar operating. So to me, like in some ways, man, that's how you operate a bolt action rifle.
Sure.
You know.
Yep.
But I can see where you're coming from. I like the position of it.
Yep.
And I like, the way you access it.
Yep.
But okay, you wanted to mention some other things.
The action itself. So
I thought that's what we were doing.
Well, kind of. You know how I get about the rifles. So the action, they're so well done, and their manufacturing processes are so buttoned up that now a lot of these major barrel manufacturers have identified them as consistent enough to allow a pre-fit. So what is that to me as somebody who likes utilitarian or unique firearms both? Well, if I want to do something fun on a Tikka, which I've done a couple times now, I have an action. I can get a pre-fit from many of the major barrel manufacturers, and not like a Remage style pre-fit, or I shouldn't call them Remage because that would mean like Remington exclusively. We'll call it a barrel nut pre-fit, where I use an adjustable barrel nut to provide tension and lock that barrel into headspace. You can get a shouldered barrel. So you spin that barrel off, put another one on, put it to the proper foot-pounds of torque, and we're good to go. We're in headspace and we're safe.
I mean, that really is amazing. Now, I'd say, like you said, to do something fun, because these rifles, I mean, you shoot these in various forms, different Tikkas here at Vortex. Extremely accurate.
Ridiculously accurate.
Like almost to the point where, like, I mean, you definitely can have compelling reasons to switch out the barrel for one reason or another.
Sure.
But
the necessity to do so is not present, in my opinion and experience. So we probably have, between our experience group that Ruben's on and Travis Vogel's on, and the guys where they go around the countries to different dealerships and events and put on trainings and shoots and things like this, they are Tikka heavy on that side. We on the consumer sales team use Tikkas for all of our range certification and testing programs. And then there's a few others in throughout. And then a lot of us own them personally for hunting. I have yet to see a Tikka factory gun break a minute of angle. period.
Right.
When we got our T3, we have a 300 Win Mag that we use as our heavy tester. If we've got a customer that wants it tested on a little higher recoiling system, we use this 300 Win Mag. We got the rifle in. I ran down to the 100-yard line with a customer scope in hand, and I've never fired this rifle, period, ever. It's like fresh out of the box. I put a pick rail on it. I put a scope on it. I degreased the bore with an alcohol swab prior to firing it. But I fired 12 rounds. My largest group went like .467 or .437 or something. And that was with Hornady ELD match, 300 Win Mag. I mean, my largest 3-round group in the .4s.
Yeah, I mean.
Bonkers accurate. We had 2 6.5s. They were CTRs, which is a variant of the rifle, that we replaced the barrel at a little over 6,000 on one and a little over 5,000 on the other.
What cartridge?
6.5.
Maybe you said that already and I just missed it. Playing catch up here. 6,000
and 5,000. I have the barrels in my desk drawer, and I want to have them milled off so I can examine the bore.
And you switched them out because you noticed a degrade in accuracy at that point?
We noticed that they were starting to get a little unstable under thermal load. So we used to be able to shoot them, 15 times or so. And then, either the mirage would be too much that we couldn't shoot through it, or we'd start to see the effects of thermal load on the barrel. And that was about what we expected for probably 4,000 rounds. And then they started to taper off a bit quicker. So we'd get like 7 rounds down. We'd have to let the gun cool a bit, pick it back up. So in the sake of expediency, we wanted a gun that was thermally resilient. Now, I could have cleaned the barrel. Maybe that would have made a difference. At 6,000 plus change rounds, that barrel didn't owe us a thing.
Yeah.
So what did we do? We spun the barrels off. We had some prefits. We spun the barrels on. And it's that simple. So they represent an exceptional builder action as well. So we reap the benefits of having a trigger system out of the box ready to go. So I don't have to buy a $200 or $300 replacement trigger because that trigger is, bang up awesome. The action is, of course, brilliant. It supports a variety of ring mounts or rails or accessory mounts, etc. And they're pre-fit compatible. And the aftermarket stock options that you can get now, Macmillan, Manners, AG Composites, which I run a lot of, Bell & Carlson, and then a number of manufacturers coming up here and there make Tikka-specific fitment. I think it's absolutely brilliant. They are a detachable box magazine gun, which I think in a perfect world, I would have a gun that had a hinge floor plate just because I like the simplicity of that. And I can't lose a hinge floor plate.
Right.
But their DBM, when you hold it, is pretty uninspiring. It's a plastic magazine, a polymer magazine, and nothing about it seems great. However, it holds an adequate number of cartridges. It feeds in a single column, and they feed like a sewing machine. And so
it's very unassuming because when you pick it up, I remember when I picked one of these up for the first time, I was like,
Plastech.
Yeah. But
they're my favorite detachable box magazine. They're economical. They're about $40 for a replacement. You can get them in a number of different configurations. You can get them extended. This is a flush fit standard.
Lightweight.
Very.
Svelte.
Yep. Here's a fun trick. You'll notice that magazine says M+. There's SM, M+, and then there's, what do they call it? L for long. The magazines are specific for the cartridges that you feed in them.
That's one way they've kind of accommodated this single action length, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay, maybe explain that.
So
I think that's where you were going.
All the magazines are the same, just with a stopper in the back. And then they might have a little bit of feed lip differentiation as well. But the stopper in the back will take up or expand the cartridge overall length capacity of the magazine itself. Okay. And then to accommodate a shorter cartridge or a longer cartridge, they have indexed bolt stops that are appropriate for that given series of cartridges. So if we're shooting a 223, and this is a poor example because this is a 6.5 Creedmoor and it's also short, you'd have a bolt stop that would stop your bolt either here or further back depending on the cartridge length itself and facilitate proper stroke and then ejection of cartridge itself. So if I took, for instance, if I had a 6.5 Creedmoor or any other short action cartridge with a standard bolt face, and I decided, okay, I want to go from a 6.5 Creedmoor to a 280 Ackley.
Okay.
New barrel, new magazine, new bolt stop.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay.
And the bolt stop, to change that out, is brilliantly simple. It comes out. They're inexpensive. They're available either from Tikka, or there's a couple aftermarket companies that are making bolt stops now. And I can do that. Now, what's really exciting is a company out of South Dakota, LRI, now makes drop-in bolts. So if I have a Tikka that I've worn out the barrel on, or I got a really good deal on it, and it doesn't have a bolt face that matches the cartridge that I'm going to be shooting.
Okay.
Like I find a 204 Ruger Tikka. It lived its life on a prairie dog town. The bore is just shot out. And I want to turn it into a 300 Wisdom. I go get a new bolt, one-piece drop-in bolt. Boop, throw it in.
Throw on a new bolt, spin on a new barrel, and off you go.
Yep. I can change the stock out to a variety of different stocks. I still do like this magazine, so I'm not worried about having to, find a proprietary internal box magazine or a proprietary detachable box magazine. It's just a Tikka magazine.
Is there a provision or a way to, like, if you're like, well, yeah, but I'm going to put a different stock on there and I want to go with a hinged floor plate?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay.
Yeah, not without some radical gunsmithing.
And I'm not saying that's like some sort of deal breaker for me by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But, man, I will say, you get this rifle, fantastic rifle. I think it's going to treat you right. But it affords you the ability down the road to be like, maybe I feel like, getting fun with it. Like, we're going to snazz it up a little. We're going to put a different stock on it. We're going to put a different barrel on it.
Yep. You can get,
and I guess that's not incredible. You can do that with other rifles as well.
Sure.
But
I'll tell you what, having the ability to do a lot of it without costly machining practices, we don't have to thread and shoulder a barrel. We can get a pre-fit. It's a done solution.
It's a little more plug and play than some other options.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I guess that's what I was trying to get at.
Knowing like the short mag, for instance, if there's one crux of the short mag, it's sometimes feeding inside of somewhat proprietary internal box magazines or expensive aftermarket magazines for a given internal chassis system. Tikka magazine feeds 300 short mag like, a gumball machine. Those never jam. No.
They're known for their precision.
Yeah, I couldn't think of something. I came up with a gumball machine. It's really...
That's what I was thinking, too.
Yeah. Anytime I secure a new Tikka, and I did pick one up the other day, I'm going to pick another one up here pretty quick. I'm just super happy to know that, one, I have a good out-of-box solution. Two, I have a solution that I can scale to my heart's content without incurring heavy fees at the gunsmith shop. I need to be able to pull the barrel off, put a new one on, check headspace with a headspace gauge. Instead of having to get tooled up and map that receiver, blueprint it, and make sure the threads are cut correctly, and shoulder it and install it. And this is a very simple operation. This is a very, very well thought out system. And I don't even know that they had the aftermarket, market in mind, if you will. I think they're just like, we build guns really good. And we're reaping the benefits now as consumers because the receivers are so predictable that we can get an aftermarket barrel that just screws right on.
Well, I think, because of that, it probably just drove that market, so cool, man. I dig it.
Simply delightful.
I know the ones that I've shot down at the range have always, treated me right.
Yep.
I don't think we missed anything. I think we ran the gamut.
We did. Very good guns.
Well, there you have it. We've talked a lot about Tikkas on the podcast before. Mostly you, Ryan.
Sorry.
But they've always been, compartmentalized parts of other podcasts. So this is our dedicated Tikka action / Tikka rifle podcast. And they're cool rifles. So if you're considering a new rifle, maybe consider some of the things that we covered here today.
Yep.
And think about one of these.
Just over 10 minutes too, Mark.
Just over.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Ryan, as always.
Yes.
And happy hunting shooting. We'll catch you on the next one.